Hey everyone, welcome back to our Python beginner series. Today we're going to be exploring data visualization in Python. We're going to be using the Matplotlib and Pandas, not the kind of furry creatures, but we'll be using this to create simple charts and graphs to easily visualize data. Let's go ahead and dive on in. I'm going to create a new Python file here. I'm going to call this one Data Visualizer. Save it in our Python folder. And before we get coding, we're going to make sure that we have pandas installed as well as the matplotlib. You can use the terminal on your computer command or the terminal in Visual Studio Code. You can access that by toggling the panel here. If you're on Windows, you'll want to type pip. If you're on Mac or Linux, you'll want to do pip3 followed by install matplotlib and pandas. We go ahead and run that command, and we can see here that we have successfully downloaded both of those library frameworks, and we should be good to go. If you get any weird errors when you first run this, save your project and restart Visual Studio Code or your development environment, and you should be good to go. Okay, let's go ahead and start coding. So we'll want to import at the top of our file, pandas. We can do so by saying import pandas as pd. So this is going to import the panda library, which is used for data handling. Then we're going to go ahead and import our matplotlib.pyplot, so like pyplot, Python plot, I guess, as plt. So this is going to import matplotlib, which we use for data visualization. Next, we'll create a dictionary. In this case, I like to use fruits, as well as we can either have a cost associated with them or maybe a quantity. And we'll just call this data for now, just super simple. If you want to call it fruits data and be really specific, feel free to do so. So let's start off by defining our fruits. And we're going to have this be a list. So we're going to use our square brackets here. And we're going to have all of our different fruits. And we're going to wrap all of them within the apostrophes. And then we're going to separate those values with commas. So we can do apples, bananas, I don't know, oranges, and maybe grapes. So now that we're done with this fruits list, outside of the square brackets, we can go ahead and add a comma. And this is where we're now going to define the quantity. So how many of each fruit do we have? Now keep in mind with the order of this, we're going to want to repeat the same order as well as the same amount. In case of our first number here, and you don't have to use the apostrophe here, you'll want to associate this first one with apples, then the second one with bananas, oranges, and then let's do grapes. So we have 4 fruits, and we have 4 different quantities that will all be aligned with the respective index. All right, next we're going to take this data, this kind of dictionary here, and we're going to convert it into the Pandas data frame for much easier data manipulation. So we can call it DataFrame. I'm just going to shorthand it to df, and this is going to equal the pd, right? Importing our pandas as pd dot data frame, and then we're going to pass through data we just created above here. After, let's go ahead and print that data frame. So we'll go ahead and print df. Now let's create a bar chart in order to best visually represent our fruits that we've created above. So we're going to reference our df.plot, and then we'll do dot, and we can decide how we want to show this to the user. I'm going to be starting off with a bar chart, and within the parameters here, we're going to be passing along what's going to be our x value. So let's say x equals, and then we're going to use our fruits here. Now it is going to look for the exact match here. So if we really want to improve this, let's go ahead and make these both capital Fs. If you want to ensure you're not making mistakes, you can always copy and paste to ensure spelling. I love a good spelling mistake, apparently. Inadvertently. Let's also define our y value, which is going to be that quantity. Then we can add things like the color. Let's go ahead and set this to be sky blue. We can play around with the different colors, and then we can establish whether or not it has a legend, and I'm going to have this one equals false. So this is going to apply our fruits on the x value and our quantity on the y value. Now there's a few more things we can do with this. We can take the plt and we can establish a title, and from here we can say fruit quantities, We can also add a label to the x and to the y. So we can do the plt.x label. And we can call this one fruit. And then let's also do that .y label, which we had as quantity. And then finally, we'll do the plt.show. So this should display the bar chart. And we'll want to make sure that we have the empty brackets there. Let's go ahead and save and run our program. And let's go see how this looks. So we can see here that we've printed out our different apples, bananas, oranges, right? So something to keep in mind is when we're looking at our lists in Python, the first element in the list actually starts off at 0. So the apple is 0, bananas 1, oranges 2, grapes 3. So if you're ever looking to access a certain element in a list, remember the first one starts at 0 and then they sequentially increase from there. We can see that we do have our little bar chart here with our different data. You can kind of drag it around if you really want, but that kind of messes it up. And you can even choose to save it to your computer. So this is a really easy way to take data in a list and then have some visual for it. So we can easily visually see the different quantity of the different amount of fruits. Let's go ahead and create a pie chart, and then we'll also create a line graph just to show you a couple more examples. Next, let's go ahead and create a pie chart. For this one, we're going to do the plt.pie. We're not going to be doing the plot. That's kind of more reserved for those bar and line graphs. We're then going to go to our parameters, and we're going to pass through the df. And from here, we're going to be passing through a list of quantity. Outside of this list, we're going to then be establishing what those labels are going to be. So in this case, we're going to be representing the different fruit. So we're going to do labels multiple equals df, and then we're going to be looking for those fruits. So essentially, we're taking the quantity as our data, and then we're going to be labeling those different things. So when we look at the pie chart, we'll have it all broken down based on the quantity, and then we're labeling each of those quadrants. Then we're going to be able to kind of decide how we want to display that data, and we're going to be using the auto PCT. And this is how we can format it. So if we want to show it as a percent, we can do the %1.1f%. Then let's go ahead and set the titles. So dot title, and we can call this one, fruits in a pie chart. We do our plt.axis, and this is how we can actually ensure that the pie chart is drawn as a circle, and we'll set this to be equal. Then let's go ahead and do our plt.show with the empty brackets, and we should be good to go. Now, just as a note, because we are calling upon the bar chart first, when we do run our application, we will see our bar chart. We can just press X, and then we can see our pie chart with the beautiful distribution, the labels, percentages, right? If you only want to see the pie, I would suggest highlighting all this and then commenting it off. But that's okay, I don't mind looking at the other charts. Next, let's go ahead and create a line graph, and let's go ahead and do days of the week with different arbitrary temperatures. So let's create some temporary data, called temp data, and we'll go ahead and use our squiggly braces here for our dictionary. And let's go ahead and start off with the days of the week. And we should be pros at lists at this point, so let's create our Monday. I think it's usually like this one, yeah. Great, and let's separate the temperature as another value. Let's put this on another line so it looks a little bit more clear. All right, we have 5 days, and we also have 5 random temperatures that I just typed out. Next, let's go ahead and convert that dictionary into the pandas data frame. So I'll have this one be temp_df, and this will equal our pd.dataframe, just like we did before, and we'll be using the temp data. Okay, and now let's create our line graph. So we're going to be using our plot again, so plt.plot. And this time we're just going to be going right into the arguments here. And we're going to take our temp underscore df. And this is going to be for our days value. Then we're going to take our temp underscore df and our temperature value. Then we're going to be establishing a marker. And I'm going to set this one to equal O. Then we'll establish a line style. We can have this equal a value. And I'm actually just going to do the normal dash here. And then we can also establish a color. And we can make this whatever color we want. Let's go ahead and do purple. I'm a big purple fan. So this is going to plot temperature data with different markers. You can play around with these different kind of parameters here, really make these line charts or display the data in the way you like. There's a lot of customization, and we'll establish our title. So our plt.title, and let's call this one weekly temps. Then we'll take our plt.xlabel. So this is going to be for our days. Then our plt.ylabel. And this will be representing our temperature in Celsius. I think that's how you spell Celsius. I hope so. I'm terrible at English. And then let's go ahead and do our plt.grid. And we can establish this to be true. So this is going to add a grid for better readability. If you want to toggle this off and see what it looks like without, feel free to do so. And then once we're all done and happy with our different settings, let's go ahead and show, and we're going to have those empty parameters. So let's run our application and see our beautiful different distributions and our different charts. Bar chart looks great, pie chart amazing, and then we have our line chart here. So we can take all the data that we've passed through and kind of see that progression. Let's go ahead and turn off the grid. So let's set this value to be false instead. And we can see the line chart still looks good, but the chart helps us better look at those differences. So it's up to you how you want to display the data. You can check out the documentation for Pandas as well as for Matplotlib library if you want to learn a little bit more about the intricacies. However, we will be doing another video on data visualization down the road, and we'll even be exploring how to take information from a CSV file and display that with our beautiful charts here. So that is a wrap on our Python beginner series, but not a wrap on the Python videos. There will be more complex topics coming up. I just wanted to create a series of builds that you can do to kind of learn the basics of Python. And now that you have these under your belt, you'll be able to explore some other Python projects. And I'll be creating some more fun tutorials there. So continue to explore Python and leave your questions or comments below. Thank you so much for watching our beginner series, and we'll see you in the other videos. Otherwise, dream big, code bigger, and have an amazing day.